Hey there, welcome back to another episode on the More Than Social podcast. I am excited for this episode. I feel like I say that actually every week, but really excited for this episode because we're going to do something a little bit different. I want to get into the nitty gritty of what it actually takes to run a successful business when you're doing it 100% online. So I am bringing on my podcast producer, Simona, who is going to share with you the behind the scenes of what it takes to run a podcast production agency. She has an incredible team that I work with every single week. So I'm super excited for you guys to hear what she has to say, but more so just see the back end of all of this. So even for myself, you see everything on the front end, but you don't actually see what we do behind the scenes. So that's more so what I want to dive in today. So I'm going to keep it brief. Let's bring Simona right on. Hey, Simona, welcome to the More Than Social podcast.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Welcome back, I should say, actually.
I know. I feel like I get a regular spot here once a year.
There you go. That's we'll keep it going with that route. I think that this is your third episode, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, we did that full series, the podcast series as well.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So we had the full series. We had the initial podcast episode, and then I interviewed you and Brian. That was so much fun. And then here we are now talking about business. I love this for us.
Here we are. Amazing. So if you know Simona, she always says, I love that for you. So I love it for me that you are actually on this episode again. But I just introduced us and wanted to talk about more the behind the scenes of what it actually takes to run a business. We all know from a front end perspective with social media, we see all the glamorous side of running a business. But you and I know it's hard work. There's lots that we actually do behind the scenes, and it's not something that we can necessarily do on our own. So before we dive into the nitty gritty about business, why don't you just give a quick little recap of who you are, what you do, and how you even got it to the spot that you're at right now?
Okay, that's a great question. So I will start with the first thing that comes to mind for me with this, Lisa, is in many ways, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. And I know people say that and people say it over and over again, but the reason why I'm saying it today is because it truly is not. When you run your own business, you are so many different things to so many different people, which is such a blessing and it's so incredible. But I think when I think back to my journey, I didn't realize how much actually went into it. And so when I started my business, I started it before the pandemic happened. So I know you've been in business for, what are you, 8 years now?
8 years, just over 8
years.
Which is crazy.
That's crazy. And for me, it's been since like 2018, 2019. So I launched my first podcast called Happiness Happens in 2018, end of 2018, beginning of 2019. And then after I launched that podcast, some friends started reaching out and they would say, oh, can you help me launch my show? Or can you teach me what you did and whatever. But I didn't even think or consider doing anything in the podcast production space until the pandemic happened, actually. And not to harp on that time of our life too much, but it was the transformative time for myself personally because I always wanted to go out into business on my own. I always wanted to run my own business. I always wanted to be my own boss, if you will. Like I hated the thought of sitting at a desk and letting someone tell me when I can go for a walk. I remember I had this one boss, Lisa, and she would always get mad at me and she would yell at me when I would go for a walk at lunch. And I would think to myself, I'm like, it's 30 minutes of activity. Like, how am I not allowed to go for a walk for 30 minutes? And I was like, this is not the life for me. So I started freelancing when I was still working in corporate. I did a lot of video production. I did a lot of audio production. I produced my podcast and I was on Fiverr. And that's how my business started, was on Fiverr. And I just started taking on different clients. Then when the world shut down, I was like, well, I'm going to transfer all of these clients to my own production company, like within my own company, instead of just doing them through Fiverr. So I gave them a little bit of a better deal, better rates, better package, and I started to build. And what happened from there was honestly incredible. So I launched my services officially in March of 2021, and they sold out in 72 hours, and it has been nonstop ever since.
Amazing. And when you say nonstop, guys, like she actually means nonstop. She's one of the busiest agencies that I know. So I'm grateful to be one of those clients. But you know what? I didn't even know that you started on Fiverr. So that's cool.
I know. And you know what's funny? I also still have a profile on Fiverr and I'll get requests here and there. But it's become a very interesting and not expected lead generation source for me because you're not supposed to do this on Fiverr, but you have your profile. But if you want it to be on a consistent basis, then I'll bring you into my agency. You know what I mean? If it's a one-off project here and there, I'll still do it. But I really don't do it a whole lot anymore. Maybe it's like a couple thousand a year. So it's like not at all on like the priority scale of things, not at all. But it's a really cool platform to be on, because you wouldn't think that that's where your referral sources could come from. So
Absolutely. That's really interesting, actually. And I find a lot of people, they always think like, how do I get my first client? So there are platforms out there like Fiverr or Upwork that you can have those profiles. But have you found, as you've kind of shifted away from Fiverr, is there other lead generation sources that help you grow?
Absolutely. So I have found there are so many different lead generation sources that have worked really well within my agency. One of them has been the networking group that you and I were both in. That's how we met, that I'm no longer in, but that you're still in. And that was really cool because I got to meet a lot of really interesting people and got a lot of referrals from people that I never would have met, and had, those referrals turn into referrals, and so on, so on, so on. Another lead generator for me is my email list. So I think, and you talk about this a lot on your podcast, I don't think entrepreneurs fully grasp all the time the power of their email list. I think it's so important to invest in and to make time and space for. My list was, I've been working on my list for a couple years now, and I send out weekly emails, and I make sure that they're like themed and stuff like that, and that they make sense, and that they're actually educational and helpful for people. And I went to launch a new product in February of 2023. And when I launched that product, I had 7 people buy from my email list. And I wasn't expecting any of those people to buy from my email list, of course. And so that's 7 sales that my agency made that I would not have made otherwise unless I had that list. So making sure that you have a really targeted and smart freebie, or like free download, free guide. It can be a private podcast feed. It can be a PDF. It could be something exclusive. Whatever that thing is, has been a huge source of lead generation for my agency, and also just bringing new people into my community. You never know where they're going to land on your purchasing scale, if you will. So having an email list and launching different things and different products and testing and seeing what people tend to gravitate towards has been really cool. And I'm really grateful. I have a massive referral network. My clients refer me clients all the time. Their clients refer me business. So I would say my agency operates on like a 98% referral basis. And then everything else comes in through newsletter. Social media is also good too. People will search, podcast producer in like hashtags, and will find my page, and then they'll send me a DM and we'll hop on a call. But I don't do a lot of cold outreach, which I probably should be better at that, but I don't. And I've tested and played around with some paid ads, mostly for my podcast, and generating leads for like leads that turn into downloads for my show. So those are kind of all the different sources. But I think the key is making sure that you have them in a strategic way, and that you have all of these different assets and they're working together. Because there's no sense in having a newsletter and having social media, but none of the content is talking and none of it makes sense. Like, you want to make sure that you have a plan and a strategy behind what you're doing.
Absolutely. And can we go back to the whole referral side of things? Because even with my business, it's been 8 years now, and 90% of my business is coming from referrals. So when you actually are getting referrals from your clients, are you asking them for the referrals, or are they just organically coming in?
I'm not asking them for them. They just organically come in, which is amazing. And then depending on the quality of the referral, like what kind of sort of service or package they're looking for, I have referral bonuses for different levels, which I think is a nice incentive too, because then my clients are getting a little kickback for referring me to someone they probably would have anyways.
Cool. Now, is that a financial kickback, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So usually it's about 10% off, 10 to 20% off of their monthly retainer. And then I just apply it automatically to their retainer. So it makes one of their months a little bit less. And then depending on how many referrals, but I do make sure that when I do this, it has to be on business that's closed. So, you can't just send a referral and then have it be open business and you know what I mean? Like the referral has to close in order for it to make sense, because otherwise I'd be paying out referral dollars, and not sort of getting it, it would not make sense for my own strategy and my agency.
Amazing. Now, do you tell them about the kickback before they send the referral? Or is
I
it something
do.
like you just do kind of after? Okay.
I do. I mean, it depends on both. Like if someone tells me, if one of my clients tells me that they're going to send me someone my way, then I'll say, oh, okay, amazing. Sounds good. If I'll let you know if the business closes because I do have a referral program, blah, blah, blah. And most of the
Cool.
time they're like, oh, that's so nice. And actually a lot of them will say, I don't even need it. I'm just happy to send you business. And I'm like,
Oh, I love it.
it's really nice of you.
I love that. Actually, there was a podcast episode with Chad, which obviously you guys produced for
Mm.
me. He actually mentioned that you should do it right off, like tell them right off the bat because they're more likely to actually send referrals. But
Mhm.
in my experience, and it sounds like your experience too, like the more relationships you build with your clients, the better results that you're going to get. It's just organically going to come. So it really depends on how fast you want those referrals to come in my opinion. But that episode alone gave a lot of awesome ideas. Like you're doing financial rewards at this point, but depending on your audience, if they don't need the financial kickback, is there anything else that you could do
Mm.
to give them?
Mhm. I love that.
So,
That was such a great episode too. I really love that. And of course I throw in extra things. You do this too in your agency, but I throw in extra things too. Like I have a membership. So if you're a client of mine on a retainer, you get free access to the membership. You get consulting hours where most people don't do that. You know what I mean? So like there's a lot of benefits. But when I built my business, I wanted to make sure that the business was built with intention. And I wanted to make sure that my clients felt super cared for and super valued because I know what it feels like to be on the receiving end of being an agency client just from past corporations that I've worked for. And the agencies don't care about you. You're just another number and another paycheck. And I never wanted any of my clients to feel that way. Like I really want my clients to feel like they have a partner in what they're doing and that we blend into their team in a significant way. And I think that we've achieved that because I would say, I mean, we grow every single year. We have, new and new clients, but I think over the last 3 years of being in business, we have ended contracts with maybe 3 clients, which is pretty amazing. Everyone else is still here. So I think I got to be doing something right, right?
I'll give you a shout out. Yes, you're doing amazing. It does
Thank
feel like
you.
you guys are just a part of the team. So good job on that end. But let's dive into that a little bit more. So if you don't want someone to feel like just a number or you're too busy to actually help them in some capacity, how do you manage the increase of workload?
Mhm.
Your team, it's like you obviously do have a team right now, which we can touch on as well. But
Mhm.
how do you manage the workload increasing, but also keeping that customer service, I'll say, high?
That's a really great question and something that I've been learning how to navigate and balance over the last year, especially because we've grown so much that in the beginning and still now, my clients will come into the agency because of the calls that I have with them. You know what I mean? And so I think there's a certain energy behind the touch points that we create for clients. And so what's been really important for me is making sure that my team is of the same values, that we all share the same values and we share the same direction and the same vision for the company. I know that you can go out and you can hire all kinds of help for really, really cheap. It helps your bottom line and that's amazing. And I know a lot of people do that. For me, I really thought about the type of team and agency that I wanted to run. I spent a lot of time in my business and I wanted to make sure that every single time I was talking to a client or we were doing client work or we were doing something, I wanted to make sure that my team felt just as valued as my clients do. And so for me, it all starts with what are your core values in life, right? I spent a lot of time, which most people wouldn't think that this is an important exercise, but I spent a lot of time figuring out what my own personal core life values were. And my top few are kindness, care, connection, and honesty. And those are how I run my life. And that is also how I run my business. And so making sure that those top values are present on a day-to-day basis and are present in the client work that we do every day. I feel like when you lead with kindness, you can automatically lead with connection and care and community and honesty and all of those things, that even to the point where if something goes wrong or we're going to be delayed on something or we need some more time or we've made a mistake or whatever, because we're all human. People
Mhm.
make mistakes. It's like we're allowed, but that's a mindset shift I've got to make for myself. But we're all allowed. I'm telling myself as I'm telling you, I'm like, Lisa, we are allowed. But when I think about that, I think and I tie back to honesty, right? So being able to be honest with my client, like, this is what's going on. So-and-so, is struggling. Not your problem, totally my problem. We're fixing it. And I'm just going to let you know. And I feel like that's a really important place to be in, is being able to have that vulnerability piece with professionalism, of course, because your clients don't necessarily care. They just want their stuff done, which fair. And also for me, it's a priority that my team still lives their life, right? They have kids, they have families, they have dogs, they have parties, birthday parties, trips. Like, we're not robots. And so the more that I can do to make sure that everyone feels seen and valued and cared for, the client experience for me is the most important part. And I know that anyone can produce a podcast. And I've taken over quite a few clients from other production companies. And it all comes down, the difference all comes down to the care and the level of quality that you put into your work. So those two things are key for me. And then everything else on top of that is a bonus.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. So lead with kindness and honesty, and that will go a long way for you. Now, so in the beginning, obviously you started as a solopreneur, and how have you even grown your team? Like, is there certain things that you did or a certain breaking point that you hit that you were like, I need someone else? Or like, how did you go from that solopreneur to now to have that full team?
That's okay. So Sam is my right hand in business. Her and I have been working together for 3 years. We've grown together. We've grown the agency together. It's amazing. She was a referral to me from a coach that I was working for in the past. And that coach had said, Simona, you're seeing all this success and it's really great and it's really exciting. I think it's time for you to consider bringing somebody else on to help with some of the smaller things that you don't want to do. And I had never worked with a VA before. I had never hired out work. I just did everything myself. And so for me, first, it was a huge mindset shift of I don't have to do everything. And one story that I used to tell myself all the time was, but I can't hire this out because no one's going to be able to do it as good as me. And that's a control thing.
I'm right there with you. It's like, I can do it better. I can do it faster. I'll just do it myself. Don't do it. Don't do it, guys.
Don't do it. Don't do it. It is a control thing. Okay. And it's also what I've realized, it's like a fear thing. There's a little bit of fear that comes in there too when you have to trust somebody else to do the work, right? When your clients are so important to you and your business is so important to you and what you've built and your reputation and your name is on the door, you want to make sure that service is impeccable. Then I started to realize that service can't be impeccable if I do everything by myself. We went from 0 to 5 clients overnight. And that was 5 brand new launches and then 5 management clients after that. And so I remember I was sitting there and I was creating all this social media content and I'm like, I don't enjoy this. I don't like doing this. So I started to identify some of the things that I didn't like doing, which for me, creating social media content, I will do it if I have to, but I do not enjoy it. I'm not creative. I am creative, but I'm not creative in that way. I don't like sitting and playing with graphics and all that kind of stuff. Sam is amazing at that, And so I'm like, why would I sit here and think to myself that I am the best person who can do this job when that's literally the furthest thing from the truth? So I had to start to shift my mindset and be open to the possibility that somebody else can do this job and they can do it really well. And I can learn how to lead and how to guide and how to help them get to the level and the quality that I would want to create. Now she's creating stuff that I couldn't even dream up. I'm like, yes, that's beautiful. Do it again. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is stunning. I love it. And then from an editing point of view, I started to realize that each podcast episode that you do, one podcast episode takes you 2 hours to edit. Okay. That's for a 60-minute episode. So just double it. Essentially, you're doubling your time. And I started to realize that when you're producing 30 podcasts on a weekly basis, that's not enough time in a week. And I won't that's what we're at now. But even at the time, I think we had when I brought Emily on, I think I had 10, I think somewhere around 10 to 15 clients or something like that I was still doing the majority of the editing for. That is a lot of hours in your week. That's that's 30 hours of your week just editing content. And so it's I started to weigh out the pros and cons and the balance of, is it really worth my time to sit here and do all this editing? Or am I better served in looking at the strategy and making sure the strategy makes sense and finding the social media clips, because I really enjoy doing that, finding the social media clips and finding the different hooks and the quotes and stuff like that, and then letting other people who have their zone of genius in those specific things actually do those things. So it's a bit of a mindset shift to get yourself to that point, but I think it's also recognizing what type of life do you want to live, right? Like, how much time do you want to spend doing the little things? Even though you can do them, you don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely is a mindset shift, but like it's so much easier said than actually done. So
I
if you're
know.
listening to this right now and you're just like, yeah, I know, but I'm not going to do it, just realize it's a journey. It definitely is a step that you need to make in order to get to that next level. But it all comes down to, like you said, Simona, just go to where you want or work on the things that you want to work on, not necessarily the stuff that you have to work on. That will release so much energy, that will release so much time, so you can put time and effort into something else, which is something that I've had to deal with over the last few years too, is just really getting out of that shift that I can do it faster, I can do it better. It's just save me even money from an expense side of things. Like there's so many little things that we can
Yeah.
talk about around this, but
Oh
it's
my God.
just like realize you're only one person and you don't have to do it all alone. I think that's the biggest
Yeah.
thing. And there are other people better than you. You're just the person that can do the strategy and you built everything. So realize that too.
I think the money thing though, Lisa, is a really, really key piece, because for me, it was really hard to hire on people because I was like, oh my God, look at how much money I'm paying to do that. But then you have to sit down and you have to realize, okay, but I've gained literally 30 hours back in my week. That's 30 hours I can spend doing other things. And as soon as so actually, it wasn't up until recently, maybe like a month or two ago, that I finally handed over all the last of the editing that I was still doing. There was a couple shows. It was yours, and there was one other
Including
one.
mine.
Yeah, literally yours and like two more maybe that I was still editing. And I wanted to do them because I love editing. Like I loved editing your podcast. I was like, this is so great. And then our mutual friend Justin said, well, like, why don't you just listen to the podcast instead and give her a download? And I was like, oh,
That
yeah,
works.
good idea.
That works. Thank you.
Good idea. But as soon as I did that, I had other clients coming in being like, I want to upgrade my package, or, hey, we used to work together a year ago. I want to come back in a different capacity, in a different package. You know what I mean? And so like, I am someone who gets like, I get fearful of like, oh my God, am I going to lose it all? Like, I'll be very honest with you. Like that is a fear that's in my mind all the time. And I think it's a reality, when you're running an agency, you have team members that are helping you bring your dream to life. Not only are you paying your bills, but you're also paying all of their bills, and they have kids and they have families and they're relying on you, right, to feed their children. Like that is not a responsibility I take lightly. Like I'm like, what more can we do to make this all make sense? And so something that I think about all the time is just this idea of like, yep, you're going to have to spend the money, but then when you spend the money, you create more space for new things to flow in, and you give yourself time in your schedule to try new things and to do different projects and, to push boundaries in a different way. So that's kind of the stage I'm in now, but it was not an overnight thing. Let me tell you.
Yeah, no, it takes
Still
a
not.
long time. And it's like the saying, you have to spend money to make money. I know how cliche it is, but it actually is true. Whether that's a team member, investing in yourself, investing in paid advertising programs, like whatever it is, you do have to spend to make. But you said it right. It gives you other time to focus on other things. So whether that's not working so much in your business, now you have the time to work on your business. Like there's so many pros to actually doing it, but it is that leap for sure. Now, I do have one other question for you. Now, I want you to go back before you came to this leap. Okay. You are a night person. I get all your messages at nighttime. You like to work. And I'm the same way. I could be working all the time. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, they're just in that work mentality. But it's because, I don't know, well, for me, it's like, I like what I do. So might as well work and I can continuously grow. But you can only do that for so long with that work-life balance. So how do you manage work-life balance at all in general?
Okay, great question. So first, Lisa, I will say I don't really truly believe that work-life balance exists. I think that it's like an integration into your life. And I think that it's the same thing whether you're an entrepreneur, you're working in corporate. You have set hours that you want to work, and there's an amount of time every single day that you're going to get your work done, right? As an entrepreneur, you have the blessing of being able to work whenever you want to. I happen to be more creative at night. I like to work better at night. And so I will. And at the same time, though, one thing that I love to do is not having to sit on my computer in the middle of the day if it's a beautiful day and I just want to be outside, or if I have errands to run in the middle of the day, or if I want to go to a doctor's appointment, or like whatever it is. Like I can schedule things in the middle of the day because then I just make the time back at night. And because I know exactly what the tasks are that I have to do every single day, I know how much time it's going to take me anyways. And so I kind of combination between time block different things in my calendar and make sure that the time is set aside for different things and different projects. And then on the flip side of it, I will, I'll work at night. And then one tip, if you are a night worker, like you and I are, one thing that I always do is schedule emails to send the next morning at 8 a.m. Otherwise, you create like a boundary struggle, I would say, like between clients, because then clients will expect you to answer at night. Not all of them. And honestly, most of mine don't, but I don't ever want to set the expectation that like, even though I'm working at night, that it's a time for a chat and that we can, go through all the different things. If I can answer, I will. But I've learned how to put boundaries around my time in a way that supports having more of like a work-life balance. Like I won't answer client messages on the weekend. If it's urgent, then I will. But I have different policies and like protocols in place to make sure that that doesn't happen. So, for example, if a client sends me a voice note on the weekend, I'm not going to answer it until Monday or Tuesday. But if they write, this message is very urgent, then I will go and I'll listen to it. So it's about putting the structure, I think, to support your life and the life that you want to have. The work is never going to end. The work will always be there and you're always going to have more and more work, right? So how do you structure your time in a way that is working for you is how you get work-life balance.
I love that. And it's like Brian and I were talking the other day about this because obviously Maddie, she's getting busier. Our daughter, she's getting busier and busier and busier throughout the day. So it's like, do we stress about the time that we can't work during the day because she needs our attention? Or should we appreciate the fact that, hey, we can spend the day with her and finish the stuff that we have to do at nighttime? But I do love what you said about the scheduling because, I mean, we can go all the time. We can always be working. We can always be sending messages. We can always be assigning tasks and stuff. So I do the same. I schedule all of my emails to go out the next morning. I actually wait until after 9 a.m. And then even if I have a message, so our project management system is Basecamp. If I have a message to send, they don't have a schedule feature yet. I'm going to say yet because I'm sure it's coming, but I actually pre-write the message and I'll just leave the tab open and then the morning will come around. I'll open my computer, send. So it's getting them in the frame of, okay, she works 9 to 5 or whatever I'm available during the day, but I'm not necessarily working on their stuff. I may have done that the night before or continuously working on it that night.
I like that. I like that a lot because I mean, you get messages from me at like, I sent you one last night at like 10 o'clock about just like, here's the episode this week. You know what I mean? But I also feel like I pick and choose like based off of like who it is. Like I know that you guys aren't looking at it and I know that you're not expecting that I'm going to answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there
absolutely.
are people who do. Very interesting. I like that tip though. That's a really good tip.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, we learned it from Justin. Like, we have to set those boundaries. And if you don't set those boundaries, then you will have clients pushing the boundaries, I'm going to say, but they don't know what the boundaries are because you're doing the same thing. So give what you actually want to receive in return as well. That would be one big advice I can give you. But honestly, Simona, thank you so much. You're a light. You always are super open with everyone and everything that you're going through. So I appreciate you sharing more of the behind the scenes. I think it's really valuable to see what people actually do behind the scenes within their business because, like I said in the beginning, we see all the glamorous stuff on the front end and we don't necessarily see you working at nighttime at 10, 11 o'clock at night doing the things. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Of course. And thank you so much for everyone who is listening. If you ever need just to chat about entrepreneurship, feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Simona. We have a wealth of experience over the years running an agency. So if you too are running an agency, maybe you're at that spot where you're a solopreneur and you're thinking about hiring a team or taking that next step with a VA, feel free to reach out to us at any point. But thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I hope you have a fantastic day and crush your week. Bye for now.